Is it on? Here we go. Hi everyone, I'm Phoenix Crockett and I am the Managing Director of the Me2 Orchestra. This is my first time with the group, my first concert with the group, just as it is Michael's. And we're really happy to be here with you tonight, presenting for the Josh Pilata Fund, for Josh's house here in Vermont, so close to Veterans Day. I wanted to start just with a 1-minute story. I'm telling myself 1 minute, so I have to keep it that way. About an important time for me in this orchestra to illustrate for you a little bit what it's all about. I started with this orchestra when I was a very confused, very harried 19-year-old who needed a shave. And it was a place for me to come and not experience some of the stigmas that I had with mental health problems in the rest of the music world. And there was one concert that we were playing, it was down in southern Vermont somewhere, and I had forgotten a black shirt, right, which seems like not a super big deal. But I was gonna look silly in the show, and I was very, very upset about this. And one of the reasons I was upset is that I knew that when I start to fall off, when my mental health starts to get bad, when the mania is turning into depression, there starts to be a lot of mistakes. I start to forget things. And noticing this pattern was hard for me in that moment. And if I'd been in other orchestras, probably there would have been a lot of annoyance. There would have been people frantically trying to pull something together to work something out. And instead, I had a lot of soft hands and a lot of, we'll work with it for you, a lot of people trying to support each other. And that meant so much to me at the time. And I tell that story all the time because I think it demonstrates exactly what happens in this group, is this acceptance, this understanding, this attitude that what it's about is being with each other and being together. The person who ended up bringing me a black shirt is also here in this room, which is fun. So, I am now going to introduce our maestro for the evening, formerly with the President's Own and then Butler University. Here is Michael Colburn.
Thank you so much, everyone. I am so delighted to be here with you this evening and greatly appreciate the fact that you all came out to enjoy an evening of music with Me2 Orchestra Burlington. It is my first performance with this group. I want to offer a word of thanks to Ronald Bernstein and Caroline Whitten, the creative forces behind Me2. They founded this group several years ago, are now taking care of Me2 in Boston, and which created the opportunity for me to start working with this group, and I'm so grateful to all the great work that you folks have done on behalf of Me2, so thank you. I just want to say a few words throughout the evening about the music that you're going to hear. You may have noticed, looking at the program, that all of this music was created by American composers. And the reasons for that are multiple. Well, I should say American composers, and there's a little bit of a military angle as we make our way through the program as well. And the reasons for that are multiple. The first is, as Phoenix mentioned, we're getting close to Veterans Day, so any chance to honor Veterans Day is something that I think is definitely worthwhile. And I have a bit of a military component in my own background, so I thought for my first program with Me2, it might be fun to focus on music by American composers. We began our program with a march by the renowned film composer John Williams, his march from the Steven Spielberg film in 1941. There's a bit of irony with this march in that it is a favorite of both Steven Spielberg and John Williams. They both feel that of all the marches that Mr. Williams has composed for film, this is his best. I wish I could say the same about the movie 1941, but actually it's not a very good movie. I recently tried to watch it again and thought, yep, it's just not that good. But one of the great things about the movie is that it did generate this wonderful march that is so full of that kind of swing music energy, the swing rhythms that we associate with music from the 1940s. We continue now with the music of Leonard Bernstein. This is music from his groundbreaking musical. I hesitate to even call it a musical. It's somewhere between a musical and an opera, West Side Story. And this is an arrangement that was created by Jack Moss. And one of the reasons I selected this arrangement is that it works well for a somewhat smaller orchestra than you would say need for the symphonic dances. This is actually an arrangement that we use quite frequently at the White House with our Marine Chamber Orchestra. And I have many fond memories of playing this music at the White House, but one particular event where Rita Moreno, who of course was in the original production of West Side Story, was in attendance. And I found out, now I had my back to the crowd, so I didn't see this happen, but my musicians told me that when the medley transitioned into America, Rita Moreno started dancing behind us in the grand foyer of the White House. So that is really one of my treasured memories of playing this music at the White House. We hope that you enjoy Jack Moss's arrangement of the music from Leonard Bernstein's West Side Story.
Again, one more time. Ah, beautiful. I'm now going to introduce two wonderful speakers, Andrea Murphy from Josh's House and Carol Furr from our own French horn section.
Thank you, Phoenix. Thank you all so much for coming tonight. I've been looking forward to this for weeks. I've been talking about it on social media and just super excited. Thank you so much, Michael, for being here. The Josh Pallotta Fund was founded because Josh was a Vermont soldier who deployed to Afghanistan. And while he was deployed, they lost 2 service members. He really struggled with a traumatic brain injury, undiagnosed PTSD, and when he returned home, he really had a hard time. And at that time, there wasn't a whole lot known about post-traumatic stress and what our veterans were experiencing upon return. In September of 2014, Josh ended his struggles, and his family founded the Josh Pallotta Fund. People just started sending in donations. Primarily, their original goal was to just raise awareness, the struggles that our veterans face, and also the issue of veteran suicide. After speaking with veterans about what they thought would be helpful, they wanted a place where they could connect, where they could come together, they could share a meal, play video games, and the idea of Josh's House was born. And in March of last year, we opened the doors to what we hope to be the first of multiple Josh's Houses here in the state of Vermont, and it's right over there. It is less than 1/10 of a mile from here, and it was ironically the old VA clinic for a lot of older veterans who used to get treatment there. And it's more than just a place for them to come together and share a meal and play video games. We offer lots of alternative healing therapies, such as free massages, Reiki treatments, healing touch treatments, battlefield acupuncture. We do offer a hot meal every day. We have a very active meal train from lots of community members that make meals, as well as what we make at Josh's House. We offer a lot of personal development programs. We work with other veteran service organizations such as Project Healing Waters and Project Warrior SOAR and Hives for Heroes to make sure that our veterans are getting the resources that they need for whatever struggles they might be having. But what's super cool about Josh's House is it's just a place where they can all come together. They can connect with one another. You don't have to be struggling. But there's an instant camaraderie between veterans. When they walk in the house, there's an innate trust between them, and it's no judgment. It's a comfortable place to be with others who know what you've been through or what you're going through. And so we continue to operate Josh's House 7 days a week. We have a full roster of volunteers, but we're always looking for more if anybody's in the market. Eventually, we would like to be 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Right now, we are open until 11 o'clock, 5 nights a week. 2 nights a week, we close at 8. But we offer them an opportunity through all of these resources, just an opportunity to connect, to learn, to grow with one another. And we were so thankful, this being the 2nd year of this concert, for Carolyn to reach out to us again to offer to do this concert on our behalf. Mental health is something that many people live with, and it's wonderful to see just how incredible people who deal with mental illness, the things that they can achieve, and the music, the beautiful, beautiful music you put out. So thank you. Thank you.
Thank you for that. That was very interesting. Hi, I'm Carol Furr, and as you heard, I'm in the French horn section. I have been involved with Me2 since almost the first rehearsal. I sort of think I missed the first one. It's hard to remember now. It's over 10 years ago. So all that time, Me2 has been a safe place for me. And well, you might think an orchestra, isn't that always a safe place? Well, not entirely. In a lot of orchestras, there's a really strong spirit of competition. and you want to be better than the person next to you, and you're kind of always watching for somebody else to slip up so that you can feel better than them. We don't do that here. As an example, in the French horn section, we always rotate parts. And I'm relieved that I didn't have to speak to you until after West Side Story, because that was one of my first horn parts. So, thank goodness that's behind me. Anyway, so when I first heard about Me2, when it was coming together, I thought, I want to be a part of that. I mean, I struggle with mental illness, I love music, I want to meet other musicians who have that in common with me. And I didn't know how much it would do for me. But mental illness is a closet that a lot of us live in. And as the expression goes, closets are for clothes. They're not for living in. And I didn't know how much it could enrich my life to come out of that closet, to be my whole self with people. It's not a secret that I keep anymore. It's not always the first thing I volunteer, but a lot of people have some idea, and I'm not hiding it. This group has just been a really wonderful place, and I guess what we have in common with Josh's house is it's the value of being around your peers in mental illness. I mean, that's what, just going to a psychologist and never seeing anybody else from your peer group, it's a very lonely existence. And so what we have here is a peer environment without being an official support group or treatment place, and it's just been really good for us. Thank you.
How about now? Hey, there we go. So, just a few words about the next selection in our program, the Celebration Dance from Aaron Copland's Billy the Kid. Aaron Copland was a contemporary and actually a good friend of Leonard Bernstein, and along with Bernstein was one of the composers most responsible for the creation of a distinctly American sound in classical music in the 20th century. Copland is best remembered these days for the ballets that he created, such as Billy the Kid, along with Rodeo and Appalachian Spring. And I think it's very easy to really think of him as a populist composer, a composer of classical music that was really appealing to a broad general audience. But that wasn't always the case with Aaron Copland. He was actually 38 years old when he wrote this ballet. This was really one of his first really populist scores. Before then, a lot of his music was very, was considered modernist at the time, a little hard for regular audiences to understand and appreciate. But Copland really wanted to connect with the public in a meaningful way. And so when he was asked to write this ballet, he found a number of popular cowboy tunes, folk music really from the West, that he used as the inspiration and the foundation for this music. So his compositional process was still very similar to what he'd been doing before this, but he felt that by using these well-known cowboy tunes, these familiar sounds, that it might establish a point of connection with the audiences that his previous music really didn't enjoy. And boy, was he right. I mean, this, he never looked back, you know, after writing Billy the Kid, went on to write those other wonderful ballets that really are so associated with, again, that sound of America, and specifically the sound of the American West. There's something that Copland, a kid who grew up in New York City, you know, had never really seen the West until he was an adult, somehow managed to really kind of capture the vast expanse, the big sky of the West in his music. The music that you're about to hear, the Celebration Dance, occurs when Billy the Kid is captured. Of course, Billy the Kid was the subject of the ballet, but Billy the Kid was a villain. And so when he was captured, the music that you hear really depicts the exuberance and the joy of the town upon learning the news of Billy's capture. This is Aaron Copland's Celebration Dance from Billy the Kid.
Also from our French horn section, Laura Frangipan.
Hi, my name is Frange. I've been playing in Me2 for I think 7 or 8 years. I play French horn. I also have the diagnoses of bipolar disorder, PTSD, and I'm in recovery from an eating disorder. What I want to tell you about is Me2's secret sauce, our secret recipe, because I don't want it to be a secret anymore. I want everywhere to feel like Me2 does. So pay attention so you can make this happen in other places. So the first ingredient is we reduce barriers. So there's no auditions to join the group. That's part of what got me here. I think if I had to audition, I wouldn't be here. We have varied abilities and different backgrounds of music in the group. So think about how you can include more people. Ingredient 2 is being non-judgmental. This is important for both yourself and for everyone else in the group. I never feel like if I make a mistake, anyone cares that much. I just have to figure it out for myself and then lean on my group if I need to. And I always feel that from our directors, like Michael as well. The third ingredient is you need to feel your feelings. So we do that mostly through music. We express ourselves, and also when we have breaks, we connect with each other and share how things are going. And the fourth ingredient, and there are others, but Phoenix Soul May had a minute, The fourth ingredient is connection. So we all care about each other. I felt that from day one when I joined the group, and it's become a family for me over the years. I always look forward to our rehearsals as a way to see my people. And what's cool about this is I recently met someone who goes to Josh's house and was talking about it, and it sounds like there's very common ingredients between the two, so that made me happy. Thank you.
So I mentioned at the beginning of the evening that this program consisted of music from American composers, but there was a bit of a military connection too. Of course, we have proximity to Veterans Day. We have the support of Josh's house, which of course is so important to us. And you're about to experience that turn in the program with Richard Rogers' Victory at Sea. Now, when you hear the name Richard Rogers, you probably don't think military. You probably think Sound of Music, Carousel, South Pacific, Oklahoma, but not military, right? Well, the way this came about was Rogers was approached in the 1950s by some executives at NBC Television who asked him if he would create the music for a military documentary they were preparing about naval warfare during World War II. And Rogers felt he was very much a patriot, wanted to support this cause, but he didn't really feel like he was up to this task. So he recruited a good friend of his and collaborator by the name of Robert Russell Bennett. Now this name may not be familiar to you, but when you hear about all of the projects that he was connected to, specifically relating to Broadway, you realize what an important figure he was. Robert Russell Bennett was an orchestrator, was a person who would take ideas from other composers and would translate them into fully formed orchestrations for groups to play. And he scored Broadway shows for names like George Gershwin, Jerome Kern, Cole Porter, Richard Rogers, some of these names that are probably familiar to you, right? Well, Robert Russell Bennett was in many ways kind of the right-hand man for all of these really fantastic composers. So what Richard Rogers did when he was approached about writing the music for this documentary was he created 12 original themes, basic melodies that he thought would suit the various moods that would be included in this documentary, and he handed these over to Robert Russell Bennett and said, do what you can with these. And Bennett never looked back. He was, as I said, a really skilled orchestrator, also a very talented conductor. So in addition to creating all of the orchestrations for this documentary, which was, I think, 24 episodes over the course of a season, it was Robert Russell Bennett who scored all the music and conducted the sessions for the television series. He also created the arrangement that you're about to hear. So this is called the symphonic scenario from Victory at Sea, which really kind of captures all of the thrilling moments that were in this documentary. That I should tell you how this documentary came to be as well. These executives at NBC found out that there were thousands of hours, literally thousands of hours of footage from naval warfare in World War II that were filmed for military and strategic purposes, but then had no purpose after the war. And so these executives decided to repurpose all of this footage into this documentary, which won multiple Emmys and really was one of the first war documentaries of its kind. So we hope that you really enjoy this symphonic scenario from Richard Rogers' Victory at Sea.
I'm back. It is one of the traditions that we do here with our Me2 shows that I curate a question and answer between you all and this group. We've taken a lot of different kinds of questions over the years. So we're ready for anything. Well, we're not ready for it. I'm going to make Caroline answer anyway. So it will be fine. So, without further ado, let me kick that off. I'll even join you down here. Does anyone have a question for the orchestra, or a section, or an individual, or Mike? Yes, Caroline Wood, Executive Director of Me2 Orchestra. What is your question?
I can't stand it when nobody else has a question, so I'll ask. It seems like there's been a lot of percussion action tonight, and sitting down here, I feel like we can't really see what's going on back there. Would the percussionists mind, like, just quickly telling us what, not only telling us, but like playing each of the instruments and telling us what's going on?
A quick rundown of instruments from the percussionists. These two people have been playing like 10 people's parts tonight. You might have seen them running wildly. A hand for the percussionists.
So, I actually haven't counted how many instruments we have out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, plus 4 more is 19, plus the cymbals is 20. So you divide that by 2 and you get us playing about 10 different things each. And it's been a challenge, but it is so much fun.
All right, I guess I'll go this way and there. These are called chimes or orchestral bells, whatever you prefer. Next we have the xylophone. And then next we have the bells or orchestral bells or glockenspiel, what have you. And then we have castanet, tambourine. I think this is called a shekere, slapstick. We were using those as bongos, but those are tom-toms. We have a kick drum, snare drum, cymbals, hi-hat, gong, bass drum, kettle drums, also known as timpani, more cymbals.
There is a reason, folks, that the timpani player is the highest paid in the orchestra. More questions from the group. Yes, sir.
How often are you able to get together and practice, and for how long can you do sessions?
Great question. I actually know this one. We practice on Tuesday nights from 7 to 9 throughout our season, which pauses in the summer. Yes, sir.
And so, as the orchestra, is it made up completely of volunteer people, or do you bring people in? Is it unique? Say you don't have an oboe player.
Our orchestra is entirely volunteers, except for our fearless pianist. Nobody would volunteer for that job. A question from Ronald Bernstein, music director of Me2 Boston, and founding member.
Yeah, the horns sound great, and I'd like to have you stand up.
Acknowledgement for the horns. Let's take one more before we finish up the night. Yes, ma'am.
I'm just curious, how many of the players have been playing since they were kids?
Raise your hand if you've been playing since you were a little kid. Pretty important, get that music in schools, people. What's that? late bloomers who started late in life on their instrument. Yeah! God rest her soul, when I started this orchestra, we had a 90-something-year-old cellist who started in their 70s. So, be as cool as Peter Ann. With that, once more, Michael Colburn before we end our show.
Thank you so much, everyone. If this is your first experience hearing Me2, you're probably getting a sense that this is not like your typical orchestra concert. And this is really, honestly, one of the things that attracted me to this organization, the idea of a musical organization that is a stigma-free zone, that all people are welcome to participate in, regardless of whatever kind of issues they're dealing with in their own personal and mental lives. It really is a unique organization, and one that I feel very privileged to be associated with now. So thanks to all these wonderful musicians who have welcomed me into their rehearsal space on Tuesday nights, and here now for the very first concert experience. I hope the first of many. So thank you so much to all of you. We are going to wrap up our American program in the most American way you can imagine, with music from perhaps the most patriotic of all American composers, John Philip Sousa. This is his most famous march, our national march, the Stars and Stripes Forever. Composed in 1896, it was hugely popular from the moment Sousa first started playing this, but it wasn't actually until the 1980s that it was officially designated by a piece of legislation signed by President Ronald Reagan as our national march. One other word about this, we often associate the music of Sousa, especially his marches, with bands, right, with military bands. But I must point out that Sousa himself was a violinist, a fact that many people do not know. And in fact, he cut his teeth as a conductor, conducting theater orchestras in Philadelphia and Washington, and wrote operettas and other orchestral works throughout his life. So he's very much a friend and supporter and lover of the orchestra. So it seems only appropriate that we wrap up this program with the Stars and Stripes Forever. Thanks again for coming out tonight, and thank you very much.